The quantum singularity tore through subspace, ripping apart the fabric of reality as the Jem'Hadar warship emerged from hyperspace. On the bridge of the Earth Alliance starship Prometheus, Captain Jake Bailey gripped the arms of his command chair. He knew this was humanity's last stand. 300 years of war had pushed mankind to the brink of extinction. The ruthless Jem'Hadar Empire controlled most of the galaxy, enslaving or exterminating every species they encountered. Only a few ragged human colonies remained, but now even those were at risk. Intelligence reports indicated the Jem'Hadar had developed a planet-killer weapon on a secret research station. If they finished it, humanity was doomed. Jake's mission was to infiltrate the base, steal the weapon plans, and destroy the facility. It should have been impossible. No ship could get past the Jem'Hadar blockade. But the Prometheus had a secret weapon of its own, the experimental S-drive. In theory, it could generate a temporary FTL micro-jump, just long enough to bypass the enemy fleet. Of course, the S-drive had never been tested. Engaging it could vaporize the ship and crew. Jake had no choice. With a Jem'Hadar armada bearing down on them, it was micro-jump or die. He gave the order, said a silent prayer, and braced for oblivion. Incredibly, it worked. The Prometheus vanished from Jem'Hadar scopes and reappeared inside the research station's defenses. Marines stormed the base, securing the weapon plans and capturing the lead Jem'Hadar scientist. News of humanity's impossible FTL technology spread like wildfire across the galaxy. The Jem'Hadar government fell into disarray, unsure how to respond to this development. For the first time in centuries, mankind dared to hope. But Jake knew the truth. The war wasn't over. It had only entered a terrifying new phase. And on an isolated Earth outpost, Fenris, the captive alien physicist, plotted his revenge. The S-drive test had been a resounding success, but Captain Jake Bailey knew their victory was tenuous at best. The Jem'Hadar would stop at nothing to reclaim their captured scientist and weapon plans. As he strode through the corridors of the Prometheus, Jake mentally prepared for the interrogation ahead. He entered the brig where the alien physicist Fenris sat shackled to a steel table, flanked by armed Marines. The Jem'Hadar's reptilian eyes followed Jake as he took a seat across from him. "I want to defect," Fenris said in perfect English, his voice a rasping hiss. "Your raid opened my eyes to the Empire's cruelty. I can help you unlock the secrets of our technology." Jake leaned back, studying the captive's inscrutable expression. Could this be a genuine change of heart, or merely a ploy to sabotage humanity from within? He couldn't afford to let his guard down. "We'll see about that," Jake replied coolly. "For now, you're being transferred to a secure facility on Earth. If your intel checks out, we'll talk." As the Prometheus set course for home, Jake couldn't shake a sense of unease. Interrogating Fenris would require the Alliance's most brilliant scientific minds, like the prodigy Dr. Lena Sorensen. Was it wise to grant this alien access to their best and brightest? The future of the war might depend on that gamble. On the Jem'Hadar throne world of Kalax Prime, Emperor Azrael seethed with terrifying rage as he convened his war council. "The humans made us look like fools," he snarled, slamming an armored fist on the obsidian table. "I want their colonies burned and their FTL technology recovered. Immediately!" "My lord, we must act carefully," Spy Master Kizan interjected, his eyes glittering beneath his hooded cloak. "Our forces are spread thin. A reckless attack now could cripple the Empire." "You would have us cower before these primates?" War Minister Razak sneered in contempt. As the council descended into bickering, Kazan slipped away, his mind racing. This human technology changed everything. He had to find a way to turn it to his advantage, even if it meant dealing with the enemy. Months later, in a restricted lab buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Lena Sorensen rubbed bleary eyes as she pored over the stolen Jem'Hadar schematics. Beside her, Fenris manipulated a holographic model of the enemy's planet killer with deft claws. "The key is boosting the S-drive's power and combining it with the weapon's singularity generator," the alien physicist rasped. "Like this." The projection morphed into a new configuration. Lena nodded slowly. "I think you're on to something. If we can actually pull this off..." She never got to finish her thought. The lab door burst open and Captain Jake Bailey charged in, flanked by Marines with rifles drawn. "Step away from him, Doctor," Jake barked. "Fenris has been transmitting your research to the Jem'Hadar." Lena's eyes widened in shock, but before she could react, Fenris grabbed her around the throat, using her body as a shield. "You're too late, human," the alien hissed. "My people will soon have your precious FTL drive." Keeping Lena as a hostage, Fenris backed toward a small spacecraft in the lab's hangar. Jake cursed, his weapon trained on the treacherous alien, but he couldn't risk hitting Lena. Seconds later, Fenris and the captive scientist blasted out of the mountain base, rocketing toward the stars. Jake punched the wall in frustration. He'd let his guard down, and now Lena was in enemy hands on the eve of their most critical operation yet. Without her expertise, the FTL strike on the Jem'Hadar was doomed before it even began. Gritting his teeth, Jake activated his comm. "This is Bailey. Scramble the fleet and prep my ship for combat pursuit. We're getting Dr. Sorensen back, no matter what it takes." The Prometheus streaked through hyperspace, its experimental S-drive pushing the limits of physics. On the bridge, Captain Jake Bailey's mind focused as he studied the tactical display. They were pursuing Fenris's ship into uncharted space, gambling everything on this rescue mission. "Dropping out of FTL in 3, 2, 1, the helmsman announced. Reality shimmered and warped as the Prometheus emerged from hyperspace. A rust-colored planet loomed before them, its surface a maze of canyons and mesas. "I've got a lock on Fenris's ship," Lieutenant Chen reported from Tactical. "It's landed near some kind of structure on the surface." Jake nodded grimly. "Take us in. Prep the assault shuttles." Minutes later, Jake led a team of Marines through the alien landscape. Wind-carved rock formations towered around them, casting long shadows in the dim light of a distant sun. As they crested a ridge, Jake's breath caught in his throat. Before them stood the ruins of an impossibly ancient city. Crumbling spires of black stone stretched toward the sky, etched with glowing symbols that pulsed with an eerie blue light. "My God," someone whispered behind him. A burst of weapons fire snapped Jake back to reality. Jem'Hadar soldiers materialized from behind rocky outcroppings, their energy weapons blazing. "Take cover!" Jake shouted, diving behind a fallen pillar. As the firefight raged, movement caught Jake's eye. He spotted Fenris dragging Dr. Sorensen toward a massive doorway in the base of the largest structure. "Chen, suppress those snipers," Jake ordered. "I'm going after the package." He sprinted across the battlefield, plasma bolts sizzling past his head. Jake reached the doorway just as it began to slide shut. He hurled himself through the narrowing gap, rolling to his feet in a cavernous chamber beyond. Fenris spun to face him, shoving Lena behind a control console covered in pulsing alien script. "Give it up, Fenris," Jake growled. "It's over." The Jem'Hadar scientist's reptilian features twisted into a sneer. "You understand nothing, human. This place holds the key to ultimate power. With it, my people will—" A new voice cut through the air. "I'm afraid that's not going to happen." Jake whirled to see two figures emerge from the shadows, a human woman in an Alliance diplomatic uniform and a cloaked Jem'Hadar. "Ambassador Corso?" Jake blinked in confusion. "What are you doing here?" Before Darian could answer, Fenris lunged for the control console. "You're too late," he snarled, slamming his hand down on a pulsing glyph. The chamber shuddered. Lena cried out as energy tendrils erupted from the walls, lashing out at everyone present. "It's some kind of defense system," Lena shouted. "We need to shut it down before—" A blinding pulse of light filled the room. When it faded, Jake saw Fenris sprinting toward a side passage, clutching a glowing data crystal. "After him!" Jake yelled, but another tremor rocked the chamber. The cloaked Jem'Hadar, Kazan, Jake realized, raced to the console. His clawed fingers danced over the alien controls with startling speed. "Doctor," Kazan barked, "I need your assistance." Lena hesitated for only a moment before joining him at the console. Jake watched in amazement as human and Jem'Hadar worked in perfect sync, their hands flying across the alien interface. With a final ear-splitting screech, the energy tendrils retracted. The chamber fell silent save for the heavy breathing of its occupants. "We've neutralized the immediate threat," Kazan announced. "But I fear the damage is already done." Darian nodded grimly. That energy pulse, it wasn't just a weapon, it was a beacon. Jake's blood ran cold. A beacon to who? The ambassador's eyes met his, filled with a mixture of wonder and dread. To them, the ones who built all this, the progenitors. As the implications of her words sank in, Jake's calm crackled to life. "Captain!" It was Chen, his voice tight with urgency. "Fenris is escaping. He's commandeered one of our shuttles." Jake sprinted for the exit, but he already knew it was too late. By the time he reached the surface, Fenris's stolen shuttle was little more than a dot vanishing into the alien sky. He turned back to see Lena, Darian, and Kazan emerge from the ruins. The unlikely group exchanged wary glances, each aware that the galaxy had changed irrevocably in the span of mere minutes. "What now?" Lena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake's hand tightened on his weapon. "Now, we figure out what the hell just happened, and we prepare for whatever's coming next." The Prometheus streaked through the void, its experimental S-drive pushing the limits of known physics. In the ship's briefing room, Captain Jake Bailey studied the holographic display with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The signal from the progenitor ruins pulsed steadily, leading them deeper into uncharted space. "We're approaching the coordinates," Lieutenant Chen reported, her voice tight with anticipation. Jake nodded, turning to face the unlikely alliance gathered around him. Dr. Lena Sorensen, her eyes still haunted from her ordeal with Fenris. Ambassador Darian Corso, her diplomatic uniform creased from days of tension. And most surprisingly, the cloaked figure of Gem Hatter Spy Master Kazan, his reptilian features unreadable. "Whatever we find out there," Jake said, meeting each of their gazes in turn, "we're in this together now." The ship shuddered as it dropped out of FTL. Jake strode onto the bridge, his breath catching as he beheld the sight before them. A vast artificial construct hung suspended in space, its surface a maze of geometric patterns that seemed to defy comprehension. But it was the fleet surrounding it that truly staggered the imagination. Countless derelict ships, their hulls bearing markings unlike anything in known space. "My God," Lena whispered, her scientific curiosity warring with a deep-seated unease. "It's them, the progenitors." Darian stepped forward, her diplomatic instincts kicking in. "We need to investigate that central construct. If there are answers to be found, they'll be in there." Jake weighed the risks, then nodded. "Agreed. Ambassador, you'll lead a team aboard. Dr. Sorensen, I want you with her. Your expertise could be crucial. Kazan, I need your people to secure a perimeter around the construct." The Gem Hadar spy master inclined his head. "It shall be done, Captain." Hours later, Jake paced the bridge, anxiety gnawing at him. The away team's transmissions had grown sporadic, filled with static and half-formed revelations about transwarp technology beyond their wildest dreams. Suddenly, alarms blared. "Multiple contacts dropping out of FTL," Chen shouted. "Gem Hadar signatures. It's an ambush." Jake's blood ran cold as he recognized the distinctive profile of ships loyal to Emperor Azrael. "Battle stations, get our people off that construct now." The void erupted in weapons fire. Jake barked orders, maneuvering the Prometheus through the chaos. On the construct, Darian and Lena fought their way through ancient defenses in Azrael's troops, the secrets of transwarp tantalizingly close. A garbled transmission cut through the static. "Jake!" It was Lena, her voice filled with wonder and fear. "The progenitors, they weren't aliens. They were us, humanity's future." Before Jake could process this revelation, a new threat materialized. A Gem Hadar dreadnought, unlike any he'd seen before, overflowing with weaponry that crackled with transwarp energy. "Incoming transmission," Chen reported grimly. The bridge view screen flickered to life, revealing the sneering face of Emperor Azrael himself. Beside him stood Fenris, a cruel smile playing across his reptilian features. "Surrender now," Azrael growled, "or bear witness to the power of true transwarp weapons." Jake's mind raced. Their conventional weapons were no match for this abomination. But as he watched Lena and Darian fighting their way back to the extraction point, a desperate plan began to form. He opened a secure channel to Kazan. "Spy Master, I need a distraction. Something big enough to buy us time." The Jem'Hadar's eyes glittered with understanding. "Consider it done, Captain." As Kazan's ships launched a suicidal assault on Azrael's dreadnought, Jake turned to his crew. "Prep the S-drive. We're going to use that construct to generate a transwarp portal." Chen's eyes widened. "Sir, the risks are better than certain death," Jake finished grimly. "It's our only shot." The Prometheus surged forward, dodging fire from all sides. Jake's hands tightened on the controls as they approached the construct, praying that Lena's theories were correct. "Initiating transwarp sequence," he announced, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "May whatever gods are out there have mercy on us all." The Prometheus shuddered as it plunged into the swirling vortex of the transwarp portal. Jake's fingers tightening on the command chair, his eyes fixed on the display as reality twisted around them. Lena's voice crackled over the comm, strained but determined. "Maintaining portal stability, we're almost through." With a final violent lurch, the ship emerged into normal space. Jake blinked, momentarily disoriented by the sight before him. The Jem'Hadar throne world loomed large, its surface a maze of fortifications and weapons arrays. Surrounding it was a vast armada of warships, their hulls jam-packed with transwarp weaponry. "Status report," Jake barked. Chen's fingers flew across her console. "Allied fleet accounted for. Minimal casualties from the jump. Enemy forces mobilizing. They weren't expecting us here." Jake allowed himself a grim smile. "Then let's press our advantage. All ships, engage at will." The void erupted in weapons fire as the two fleets clashed. The Prometheus dove into the fray, its experimental defenses barely holding against the onslaught of transwarp weaponry. On the bridge, Jake coordinated the assault, his mind racing through tactical possibilities. "Captain," Kazan's gravelly voice cut through the chaos, "we must strike at Azrael directly. A team on the ground could—" "Agreed," Jake interrupted. "Prep a strike team. I'll lead it myself." Minutes later, Jake found himself in a stealth shuttle, weaving through the debris-choked battlefield toward Azrael's flagship. Beside him, a mixed squad of human marines and Jem'Hadar defectors checked their weapons, an uneasy alliance forged in desperation. The shuttle touched down in a rarely used maintenance bay. Jake's team moved swiftly through the ship's corridors, encountering sporadic resistance. As they fought their way deeper into the vessel, Jake's comm crackled to life. "Jake, it's Darian," the ambassador's voice was tight with urgency. "We're broadcasting proof of the transwarp jump and progenitor tech across Jem'Hadar frequencies. Some ships are standing down, but we need more time." "Understood," Jake replied, ducking as a plasma bolt sizzled overhead. "We're almost to the throne room. How's Lena?" A pause. "We've lost contact. Jake, be careful. Our allies are getting restless. Some want to glass the entire planet." Jake cursed under his breath. He'd known the alliance was fragile, but if it fractured now... The thought was driven from his mind as they reached the massive doors of Azrael's inner sanctum. With a nod to his team, Jake activated the breaching charges. The explosion reverberated through the ship. As the smoke cleared, Jake found himself face to face with Emperor Azrael himself. The Jem'Hadar leader sat upon a crystalline throne, his eyes burning with hatred. "So," Azrael's voice dripped with contempt, "the primitives think they can challenge me in my own domain?" Jake raised his weapon. "It's over, Azrael. Surrender now, and we can end this war." The Emperor's laughter was cold and mirthless. "End it? You fool! This is only the beginning." Azrael's clawed hand slammed down on his throne's arm. Instantly, the room came alive with deadly energy fields and automated weapons. Jake dove for cover as his team scattered, caught in a killing field of their own making. As the battle raged, Jake found himself pinned down behind a fallen column. His hand brushed against an unfamiliar device on his belt, the prototype progenitor weapon Lena had insisted he carry. Its power could end this fight in an instant, but at what cost? Jake's finger hovered over the activation switch, his mind racing. Use it, and he'd be no better than Azrael. hesitate, and his entire team could die. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance of his choice. Across the galaxy, Lena Sorensen fought her own battle. Held captive in a transwarp lab by Gem Hatter hardliners, she worked furiously to stabilize the portal that had brought them here. If it collapsed, their entire force would be stranded in enemy territory. War Minister Razak loomed over her, his voice a menacing growl. Faster, human. Your knowledge of progenitor tech will usher in a new era of Gem Hadar dominance. Lena's mind raced, seeking a way out. As her captors argued among themselves, she noticed a flaw in their trans-warp equations. With the right adjustments, she might be able to turn their own technology against them. But one wrong move could tear a hole in the fabric of space-time itself. As Jake faced his moral crucible and Lena her scientific dilemma, the fragile alliance that had brought them this far began to splinter. In orbit above the throne world, human and Gem Hadar ships jockeyed for position, fingers hovering over triggers. The next few moments would determine not just the outcome of the battle, but the future of both their species. The throne room erupted in chaos as Jake's team fought for survival against Azrael's defenses. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air, leaving scorch marks on ancient walls adorned with progenitor symbols. Jake's fingers brushed against the prototype weapon at his belt, its weight a constant reminder of the terrible power at his disposal. A scream pierced the air as one of his Marines fell, chest smoking from a direct hit. Jake gritted his teeth, knowing each moment of hesitation cost lives. He raised the progenitor device, its unfamiliar contours fitting unnaturally in his hand. "Wait!" Azrael's voice cut through the din. The Gem Hadar Emperor's eyes fixed on the weapon, a flicker of fear breaking through his mask of contempt. "You don't know what forces you're toying with, human." Jake's finger hovered over the activation switch. "Then enlighten me." Before Azrael could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. A voice crackled over the comm system. "Emperor, we've lost control of the central power core." Azrael's eyes widened in genuine shock. "Impossible." Jake seized the moment of distraction, diving forward and tackling the Gem Hadar leader. They grappled on the floor, Jake's human strength pitted against Azrael's genetically enhanced physique. As they fought, the ship shuddered ominously around them. "Captain," Chen's voice burst from Jake's comm. "The throne world's defenses are powering down. We're detecting massive energy fluctuations from the surface." Jake managed to pin Azrael, pressing his forearm against the alien's throat. "What's happening?" he demanded. Azrael's laugh was more of a wheeze. "Your meddling has awakened something beyond your comprehension, human. The trans-warp core is destabilizing." A new voice cut through the chaos. Kazan, the Gem Hadar spy master. "Captain Bailey, I've secured the power core, but there's a complication. War Minister Razak has taken control of a significant faction. He holds Dr. Sorensen." Jake's blood ran cold. "Lena." Azrael seized the moment, throwing Jake off and scrambling for a fallen weapon. Jake rolled, bringing up the progenitor device on instinct. A pulse of energy erupted from its tip, catching Azrael squarely in the chest. The Gem Hadar Emperor crumpled, his body flickering with strange energies. Jake staggered to his feet, staring at the weapon in his hand with a mixture of awe and revulsion. He keyed his comm. "Chen, what's the status of our fleet?" "It's a powder keg, sir," his lieutenant reported. "Half our allies want to glass the planet, the other half are threatening to turn on us if we do." Jake closed his eyes, the weight of command settling heavily on his shoulders. "Patch me through to the Allied Council." Minutes later, Jake found himself in a heated debate with the most powerful figures in two civilizations. Admiral Halsey's hologram paced angrily, his voice booming through the throne room. "We have them on the ropes, Bailey. One decisive strike, and we end the Gem Hadar threat forever." "And become the very monsters we've been fighting?" Ambassador Corso countered, her normally serene features twisted with frustration. "We came here to end a war, not commit genocide." Jake raised his hand, silencing the squabbling council. "We don't have time for this. War Minister Razak controls the trans-warp core and holds Dr. Sorensen hostage. If we don't act fast, we risk losing everything." He outlined his plan, a surgical strike to infiltrate the power core, neutralize Razok, and stabilize the transwarp systems before they tore the planet apart. It was risky, but it offered a chance to end the conflict without further bloodshed. As the council deliberated, Jake turned to Kazan. "I need your help to get into that core." The Jem'Hadar spy master nodded, his reptilian features unreadable. "Follow me, Captain, but be warned, the path ahead is treacherous." They moved swiftly through the labyrinthine corridors of the throne world, Jake's strike team on high alert. As they approached the power core, Kazan suddenly spun, leveling a weapon at Jake's chest. "I'm sorry, Captain," the spy master said, his voice devoid of emotion, "but the future of my people comes first." Before Jake could react, a blur of motion knocked Kazan aside. Fenris, the rogue Jem'Hadar who had once been their enemy, stood between them. "No more betrayals," Fenris growled. "This ends now." With Fenris's help, Jake fought his way into the heart of the transwarp core. Ancient progenitor technology pulsed with almost unchecked energies, filling the vast chamber with an eerie, shifting light. At the center stood War Minister Razok, holding Lena at gunpoint. "One more step, human," Razok snarled, "and I'll vaporize your precious scientist." Jake raised his hands, mind racing. "Think about what you're doing, Razok. That core is unstable. If we don't work together, it'll tear this planet apart and take half the galaxy with it." Lena's eyes met Jake's, a silent message passing between them. Jake inched forward, drawing Razok's attention. "You want to save your people? This isn't the way." As Jake spoke, Lena's fingers danced across a nearby console. Razok noticed too late, roaring in fury as the scientist initiated an emergency lockdown. Force fields sprang to life, cutting the War Minister off from the core's main controls. Jake lunged, tackling Razok as Lena scrambled clear. They grappled on the ground, the Jem'Hadar's enhanced strength nearly overwhelming Jake. A stray shot from Razok's weapon struck a power conduit, sending a cascade of energy through the chamber. Warning klaxons blared as the transwarp core pulsed ominously. Jake managed to subdue Razok, but the damage was done. The throne world shuddered, reality itself seeming to warp around them. "Jake!" Lena shouted over the din. "The core is going critical. If we don't vent it now, it'll scatter this entire system across infinite realities." Razok laughed bitterly. "Then we all die together, human." Jake's mind raced, pieces falling into place. He turned to Lena, an impossible idea forming. "What if we don't fight it? What if we use the core's energy to our advantage?" Lena's eyes widened as she grasped his meaning. "A coordinated transwarp jump. It's risky, but it might work." They worked feverishly, Lena's expertise combining with Jake's intuitive grasp of tactics. As Razok's loyalists pounded at the chamber doors, they formulated a daring plan. Use the overloading core to create a massive jump gate, instantly transporting all allied and surrendered forces back to their home regions. Jake opened a channel to the allied fleet. "This is Captain Bailey. Prepare for emergency transwarp jump on my mark. Transmitting coordinates now." He turned to Lena, the fate of 2 civilizations hanging on her calculations. "Ready?" Lena nodded, her fingers poised over the final command. "Let's hope we did the math right." Jake took a deep breath, watching as the core's energies reached a fever pitch. "Now!" The throne world vanished in a blinding flash of light, the fabric of space-time itself bending to their will. As reality twisted around them, Jake could only hope they hadn't just made the progenitor's mistakes all over again. The blinding flash faded, revealing the familiar starscape of Earth Alliance territory. Jake blinked, his eyes adjusting to the sudden change. Around him, the bridge of the EAS horizon hummed with activity as crew members frantically assessed their status. "Report!" Jake ordered, his voice hoarse. Lieutenant Chen's fingers danced across his console. "Sir, all Allied ships accounted for. We've successfully jumped to the designated coordinates." Jake allowed himself a moment of relief before the weight of their situation settled back onto his shoulders. "And the throne world?" Chen's expression grew grim. "Gone, sir. Long-range sensors show a massive gravitational disturbance where it used to be. The entire system has been rearranged." Lena's voice crackled over the comm. Jake, you need to see this. Minutes later, Jake stood in the aft sensor lab, staring at a holographic representation of the throne world's former location. Where a planet once hung in space, a swirling vortex of fractured space-time slowly collapsed in on itself. It worked, Lena said, her voice a mix of awe and exhaustion. The core's energy created a temporary wormhole network, allowing us to bring everyone through. But the cost? Jake nodded, understanding the gravity of what they'd done. How many Jem'Hadar made it? About 60% of their fleet, Chen reported. Mostly moderates and those who surrendered. The hardliners chose to go down with their world, Jake finished. He turned to Lena. Any sign of pursuit or anything else coming through that rift? Lena shook her head. Not yet, but Jake, that tear in space-time, it's not closing as fast as it should. There could be repercussions. Before Jake could respond, Admiral Halsey's hologram flickered to life in the center of the lab. Captain Bailey, report to the Providence immediately. We have a situation. Hours later, Jake found himself in a heated debate aboard Halsey's flagship. The circular war room was filled with holograms of Earth's highest-ranking military and political leaders, all clamoring to be heard. We should strike now, General Archer's hologram shouted. The Jem'Hadar are in disarray. We can end their threat once and for all. Ambassador Corso's calm voice cut through the din. And become the very monsters we fought against? No, we have an opportunity here for lasting peace. Jake cleared his throat, drawing the room's attention. With all due respect, we have more immediate concerns. The rift left by the throne world's destruction, it's not closing. And we've detected unusual transwarp signatures emanating from the fringe worlds. A hush fell over the room. Admiral Halsey leaned forward, his weathered face etched with concern. Explain, Captain. Jake nodded to Lena, who activated a holographic display. We've intercepted fragmentary transmissions, she began. They appear to be Jem'Hadar in origin, but twisted somehow, as if they've been filtered through multiple layers of space-time. Images flickered to life, star charts overlaid with pulsing energy signatures, each one originating from a different fringe world. Jake watched the faces around him grow pale as understanding dawned. It's Fenris, Jake said quietly. Before we captured him, he must have found a way to transmit progenitor tech secrets to hidden allies. Now they're experimenting with transwarp manipulation, possibly even temporal displacement. The room erupted into chaos once more. Jake caught Lena's eye across the holotable, a silent understanding passing between them. They both knew what had to be done. As the leaders of Earth argued, Jake's mind raced. The Jem'Hadar Empire lay in ruins, but a new threat loomed, one that could unravel the very fabric of reality. And at the heart of it all, a rift in space-time that refused to close, beckoning them back to the graveyard of the throne world. Jake's hand unconsciously brushed against the progenitor device at his hip. He'd used it once to end a war. Now, he realized, it might be the key to preventing an even greater calamity. Admiral, Jake said, his voice cutting through the noise, I have a proposal. Admiral, Jake said, his voice cutting through the noise, I have a proposal. All eyes turned to him as he outlined a daring plan. Reopen the rift to the throne world ruins. It was risky, but it offered their best chance at unraveling the mystery of Fenris's betrayal and the transwarp anomalies. Ambassador Corso's hologram nodded approvingly. This could foster cooperation between our peoples. A joint scientific expedition. Absolutely not, General Archer interrupted. We should secure any progenitor technology for ourselves. The Jem'Hadar can't be trusted. Jake watched as the room split into factions. Corso's supporters advocating for peace, while Halsey's hardliners pushed for dominance. The Admiral himself remained silent, his eyes never leaving Jake. Enough, Halsey said finally. Captain Bailey, you have my authorization to proceed, but this mission will be under Earth Alliance control. Jake caught the glint in Halsey's eye and understood the unspoken order. He was to secure any advantages for humanity, peace be damned. As the meeting adjourned, Jake pulled Lena aside. We need to move fast, he whispered. And we need allies we can trust. Lena nodded. I'll contact Kazan. If anyone can rally the moderate Jem'Hadar, it's him. Days later, Jake stood on the bridge of the horizon, staring at the swirling rift that had once been the throne world. A fleet of Earth Alliance and Jem'Hadar ships hung in formation around them, an uneasy alliance on the edge of the unknown. Kazan's ship is hailing us, Chen reported. The Jem'Hadar spy master's face appeared on screen, his expression grim. Captain, we have a problem. War Minister Razak has seized control of several fringe colonies. He's amassing forces, likely to make a play for whatever we find through that rift. Jake cursed under his breath. Can you handle it? Kazan's mandibles clicked in frustration. I'm trying, but my authority is tenuous. Many see Razak as our people's last hope for true independence. Keep me updated, Jake said. We're proceeding with the mission. As Jake gave the order to enter the rift, alarms blared across the ship. Chen's fingers flew across his console. Sir, we're detecting multiple transwarp signatures. Razak's forces are converging on our position. The rift pulsed, reality itself seeming to warp around them. Jake gripped his chair as the horizon plunged into the unknown, Razak's ships in hot pursuit. They emerged into chaos. The shattered remains of the throne world floated in a sea of fractured space-time, each fragment a window into possible realities. At the center of it all stood a massive structure, unmistakably progenitor in origin. That has to be it, Lena breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. A progenitor archive. Before Jake could respond, Razak's flagship dropped out of transwarp, weapons blazing. The horizon rocked under the assault. All ships, defensive formation, Jake ordered. We need to reach that archive. As the battle raged around them, Jake led a boarding party onto the progenitor structure. They fought their way through twisting corridors that seemed to defy physics, Razak's troops dogging their every step. They reached the archive's core just as Razak himself burst in, flanked by his elite guard. Stand down, human, the Jem'Hadar warlord snarled. The power to rewrite history will be ours. Jake raised the progenitor device, its tip glowing ominously. You don't understand what you're dealing with, Razak. This technology could unravel reality itself. Razak laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. And rebuild it in our image. No more human dominance, no more Jem'Hadar subservience. We will be the masters of our own destiny. The archive pulsed, holographic displays flickering to life around them. Jake saw glimpses of alternate timelines, worlds where the Jem'Hadar ruled unchallenged, others where humanity never left Earth. The very fabric of history hung in the balance. Lena's voice crackled over the comm. Jake, the archive is overloading. It started making random alterations to the timeline. If we don't stop it now, all of history could be rewritten. Jake met Razak's eyes, seeing the madness that had consumed the Jem'Hadar leader. There was only one way to end this. He raised the progenitor device, its energy building to a crescendo. I'm sorry, Jake said, to Razak, to his crew, to all of history itself. He fired. A blinding flash engulfed them all, and reality itself seemed to scream. Jake blinked, disoriented as reality reasserted itself. The progenitor archive dissolved around him, replaced by the familiar bridge of the horizon. His crew bustled about, seemingly unaware of the cataclysmic events that had just transpired. Status report, Jake croaked, his throat dry. Lieutenant Chen looked up from his console, puzzled. All systems nominal, sir. We've just completed our scheduled patrol of the fringe worlds. No anomalies detected. Jake's mind reeled. The war, the throne world, the cosmic reset. Had it all been a dream? But the weight of the progenitor device at his hip told a different story. Somehow, he alone retained the memories of a reality that no longer existed. Sir, Chen interrupted his thoughts, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. It's Ambassador Corso. Darian Corso's hologram flickered to life, his face etched with concern. Captain Bailey, we need you back at Earth immediately. There's been an incident. Hours later, Jake found himself in a top-secret briefing room deep beneath Geneva. Admiral Halsey paced at the head of the table, while Corso sat with his head in his hands. To Jake's surprise, Kazan was there too. His Jem'Hadar features a stark contrast to the human officials. "It's happening again," Halsey growled. "New Dakota colony, entire population, replaced." Jake's blood ran cold. "Replaced?" Corso nodded grimly. "One day, it's our colony. The next, every single inhabitant is different, claiming to be from some parallel Earth where Halsey's Terra Primum faction rules supreme." "And they're not the only ones," Kazan added. "3 of our outlying settlements have experienced similar phenomena. But in our case, the replacements are more violent." Jake's mind raced, connecting the dots. Fenris's transwarp data burst. It must have fractured the barriers between realities when we activated the reset. Halsey smacked his head on the table. "I don't care about the how, Captain. I care about stopping it. And more importantly, I care about making sure those damn Jem'Hadar don't use this chaos to rebuild their war machine." "With all due respect, Admiral," Corso interjected, "this is precisely why we need to bring the Jem'Hadar into the fold. Share our FTL capabilities, create a united front against these incursions." Kazan's mandibles clicked in agreement. "My people are as terrified as yours, Ambassador. But Razok's hardliners are using this fear to rally support. They promise strength through isolation and rearmament." Jake felt the weight of history pressing down on him. The reset had given them a clean slate, but old hatreds and new terrors threatened to plunge them back into war. "We need to investigate the source," Jake said firmly. "If these alternate realities are leaking through, there must be a focal point, the remains of the throne world." Halsey's eyes narrowed. "Absolutely not. We can't risk—" A klaxon blared, cutting off the Admiral's protest. A harried aide burst into the room. "Sir, we're detecting massive transwarp signatures at the edge of the system. It's us, sir. An entire Earth Alliance battle fleet, but flying Terra Primum colors." Jake met Corso's eyes, a grim understanding passing between them. The temporal invaders had arrived in force. "Get to your ship, Captain," Halsey ordered. "Defend Earth at all costs." As Jake sprinted for the shuttle bay, Kazan fell into step beside him. "My ship stands ready to assist, Captain. Let us prove that our peoples can stand together." Jake nodded, knowing that the next few hours would determine not just the fate of Earth, but the course of history itself. As they lifted off, he caught sight of a shimmer in the sky, the vanguard of the invading fleet dropping out of transwarp. The battle for reality itself was about to begin. Jake's fingers tightened on the helm controls as the first wave of Terra Primum ships dropped out of transwarp. Their sleek hulls gleamed with an eerie familiarity, Earth Alliance designs twisted into something darker. "All ships, defensive formation Delta," Jake ordered, his voice steady despite the churning in his gut. "Kazan, I need your cruisers to reinforce our flanks." The Jem'Hadar leader's gruff acknowledgement crackled over the comms. On the main view screen, Jake watched as the motley collection of Earth and Jem'Hadar vessels moved into position, an unlikely alliance forged in the crucible of cosmic horror. The first salvos lit up the void. Jake gritted his teeth as the horizon shuddered under enemy fire. "Return fire, all batteries!" As the battle raged, Jake's mind raced. How had it come to this? Just days ago, they'd been celebrating a hard-won peace. Now, reality itself seemed to be unraveling around them. A priority transmission cut through the chaos. Admiral Halsey's weathered face appeared on a side screen, his eyes wild with impossibly strong panic. "Bailey, we're detecting massive transwarp signatures throughout the system. It's not just Earth. Reports are coming in from New Dakota, Proxima Centauri, even the Jem'Hadar core worlds. We're being invaded on all fronts." Before Jake could respond, the Admiral's image flickered. For a heart-stopping moment, Jake saw another Halsey superimposed over the first, this one clad in the stark black uniform of Terra Primum. "Sir," Chen called out, his voice tight with barely suppressed fear, "I'm picking up fluctuations in the local space-time continuum. It's as if reality itself is coming apart at the seams," Lena finished, her fingers flying over her console. "The incursions aren't just physical, they're temporal. Different versions of our timeline are bleeding through." Jake's blood ran cold as the implications sank in. He opened a channel to Kazan's flagship. "We need to regroup. Meet me at these coordinates. We have to find a way to stop this before—" A blinding flash erupted from the heart of the battle. Jake shielded his eyes, blinking away the afterimage. When his vision cleared, his heart sank. Where Kazan's cruiser had been, a Terra Primum dreadnought now hung in space, its weapons already charging. "Evasive maneuvers!" Jake shouted, but it was too late. The dreadnought's main cannon fired, the beam lancing through space-time itself. Reality seemed to bend and warp around the horizon as the ship tumbled out of control. Jake fought to stay conscious as alarms blared and emergency systems kicked in. Through the haze of pain and disorientation, he saw fractured images flickering across the view screen, glimpses of other battles, other Earths, other versions of himself locked in an endless struggle. As the horizon stabilized, Jake made a decision. "Set course for the coordinates I'm sending you," he ordered, his voice hoarse. "We need to find Admiral Halsey and Ambassador Corso. If there's any hope of stopping this, we need to pool our resources." The ship limped through the chaos of battle, narrowly avoiding the worst of the fighting. Jake watched in horror as entire segments of space seemed to phase in and out of existence, replaced by nightmarish alternatives. They found Halsey's command ship adrift near the ruins of Luna Base. Jake led a boarding party, his pulse pounding as they made their way through flickering corridors. In the command center, they found the Admiral, or rather, multiple versions of him, each fading in and out of reality. "Bailey," one Halsey croaked, his uniform shifting between Earth Alliance blue and Terra Primum black. "It's worse than we thought. The trans-warp network. It's become unstable. Reality itself is fracturing." Another Halsey, this one wearing the insignia of a long-dead Terran empire, snarled and lunged for Jake. His hand passed through Jake's chest like smoke, and he vanished with a howl of rage. "Sir," Jake said, fighting to keep his voice steady, "we need to shut it down. All of it. The entire transwarp network." The remaining Halsey nodded grimly. Corso has a plan, but it's risky. Get to Geneva. Find him before it's too late." As Jake turned to leave, Halsey grabbed his arm. For a moment, his form solidified, and Jake saw the man he'd once known, determined, resolute, but haunted by the weight of command. "Whatever happens, Captain," Halsey said, his voice barely above a whisper, "remember who we are, what we stand for. Don't let them take that away from us." With a final, spasmodic shudder, Admiral Halsey vanished. Jake stood alone in the command center, the fate of not just one universe, but countless realities, resting squarely on his shoulders. He tapped his communicator. "Lena, set course for Earth. We're going to Geneva." As the horizon limped towards their homeworld, Jake could only hope they weren't already too late.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.